Hey guys, Sleepy Reader here. I thought I'd just try to quickly tell you guys what I know about Miracleman or Marvelman. Um, I was lucky enough in 1982 to pick up the original issues of Warrior magazine, which was an anthology magazine of continuing strips, which included the the early black and white versions of Marvelman by Alan Moore. There were other comic strips by Alan Moore in here. Um, and it was a surprise at the end of the first issue's strip that it was Miracleman, a Marvel Man come back. So there's all kinds of confusing stuff about Miracleman, Marvel Man, and Marvel Comics now owns the rights apparently, and is bringing it back. And they're starting by reprinting from the beginning of Alan Moore's run, and they just released a huge fat comic for $6, I believe, and it contains the stories from these first two issues of Warrior magazine, and recolored from the recoloring because they were originally black and white. Now each of these things that it reprints is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 or 8 page stories. So the first issue of Marvel Man that they're now publishing will have 14 pages or maybe a little more, maybe 16 pages of Alan Moore comics, and the rest is filler that they put in around it. So I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to wait for the trade. I read the first 9 issues of Warrior, and then I kind of randomly picked up some Miracle Man along the way. But by the time I caught up with Miracle Man in the U.S., it was written by a then not so well known comic book writer called Neil Gaiman, and so I was kind of over it, and I only picked up random bits here and there. And then later I regretted it when lawsuits made them stop publishing trades and such, and it was so hard to get a hold of the original issues. Um, so it has this bizarre history of who owns it, different versions, and what we're seeing now from Marvel is a reprint of a reprint of a reprint, because we first had the British black and white version, then they colored it and changed a few of the words for legal reasons to make it Miracle Man, and published it in the U.S., and then lawsuits caught up with it and it all went out of print, and now for the third time it's being published by Marvel. So for me to buy it in individual issues doesn't seem like that big of a deal, especially since Marvel is obviously trying to maximize the padding to their comics for it. And a lot of people know all the funny stuff about how Alan Moore doesn't want his name attached to it, so it just says by the original author. But the bizarreness of the whole Marvel Man story goes back further, because there was a company in England that was publishing Captain Marvel, the big red cheese, Shazam, back in the 40s and 50s. And when Fawcett Comics got out of the comic book business and stopped doing Captain Marvel, they still wanted to be able to sell Captain Marvel comics over in England, but they didn't have the legal right to keep using the name Captain Marvel, so they just changed the name to Marvel Man and slightly changed his costume, took away the cape and stuff, and had this hero they called Marvel Man, who was just like Captain Marvel as far as I understand. And so that was kind of a dicey rights kind of thing there. I think just because they were over in England, and back then Fawcett was out of comics, and who cares. So then eventually Marvel Man goes out of business, and whoever was publishing them. And then these newer kind of slightly more in-your-face black and white comics, probably, made popular by Judge Dredd, became popular in England. And this brash publisher named Des Skin, publisher, editor, claimed to have the rights to Marvelman, and he told Alan Moore and Gary Leach, if you revamp Marvelman, I'll share the rights with you. So they did so, and then when it came over to the U.S. and Neil Gaiman started writing it, from what I understand, apparently Alan Moore just said, "Here, Neil, you take the rights." I don't know what was going on then to make him say that. He probably didn't think it was a very big deal. And then it turned out that Des Skin, the publisher of Warrior, never had the rights to Marvelman. And so then I believe, again, I may have this all butchered, but it gives you a sense of how complicated the trail of all of this is. Then I think over at Image Comics, Todd McFarlane bought the rights to Marvelman from some people, maybe the original rights owners, or maybe from Des Skin, I don't know. And then Neil Gaiman said, wait a minute, Alan Moore gave me the rights, and he sued Todd McFarlane for the rights. So eventually Marvel decided they wanted Marvelman, and they started buying the rights from everybody, negotiating, and I guess it took years and years and years. It's all kind of bizarre because it all starts as a ripoff of Captain Marvel. Do the creators of the original Captain Big Red Cheese get a cut on this? I don't think so. But so that's kind of the bizarreness behind all of it and why it took so long to get back into print. I'm wondering, does Marvel want to bring Marvelman into their universe? I mean, it seems to me confusing. They already have a Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel and Marvel Boy. But this is great comics, and I'm really looking forward to sort of reading the whole story when it's in trades. And it's going to be a little hard to wait, but the expensiveness of that first issue, and I don't know what the rest of the issues are going to cost, is making me wait. But this was, to me anyway, this was the first time I saw someone kind of turn a superhero inside out. It starts with this middle-aged man who has dreams about flying, and eventually we find out when he was a boy, he was like Billy Batson, but not Batson, and was a superhero, and now he's grown up and he's forgotten about it. But inside of him is still the power if he says the word Kimota, which is atomic, spelled with a K at the end, backwards. And if you know about Captain Marvel, then he has the same sidekicks and the same villains, or very similar to that. But Alan Moore did create a new character, I think new. I could be wrong even on that. Let me see. Named Warpsmith, and Warpsmith eventually got his own comic strip, and he may have even had a few comic books back in the day. Let's see if I can find Warpsmith in here, page 20. So I definitely, especially for anyone who's kind of interested in the history of modern day comics, I definitely say scoop up Marvelman, Miracleman in whatever form you can. I would recommend the trades because just waiting a little bit longer, because it seems like Marvel's just totally out to skin people for this, and it is a reprint of a reprint. So Alan Moore just somehow got the notion of let's reset comics, reset superheroes, and take a whole new look at them. And I think it started probably here in Miracleman. Maybe there's some even earlier British Marvel stuff British Alan Moore stuff that we're not seeing. It's funny that everywhere you turn, Alan Moore is losing the rights to things. Why did he just give it all to Neil Gaiman? And now, so Neil Gaiman must be part of giving it to Marvel, which is certainly not something Alan Moore would have wanted. I feel like it should be at Image. But to Neil Gaiman, it seems Todd McFarlane is evil or something. So he's not working with Image. And I don't know whether Neil Gaiman held any legitimate rights, given that the rights were never properly sold to Warrior Magazine, who gave the rights to Alan Moore. Um, it's interesting to me, because we talk a lot about creator rights, those of us who get too much into the history of comics. But comics have so many creators, like, you know, the early Superman or early Batman has been built upon by so many creators. Do we keep giving more people rights, or certain people who are very aggressive, like Neil Gaiman apparently, scoop up all the rights to these things? And the Neil Gaiman bringing this kind of stuff to Marvel seems particularly odd to me, because Marvel has a long track record of being built on very specific creators' works who got nothing for it and get no credit now, specifically Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. Um, but anyhow, be that as may, it's worthy comics of reading. And I am also a little frustrated with Alan Moore not wanting his name on things, because we are reading these books because they are Alan Moore books. And it's very noble of him not to take the money and not to take the credit, but I think he should take the money, and he especially should take the credit, because this is history. This is to me, this is important literature, and Alan Moore, you're a major figure in this. Anyway, I'm looking forward to hear if anyone does pick up those issues or has some other Marvelman, Miracleman experiences they want to talk about. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.